Question, multiple choice. When is the best time to talk to partners about what feels good for you / what type of sex you enjoy? A, before sex, B, during sex, C, after sex, or D, all of the above? The answer is D, all of the above. Not only is consent ongoing and reversible, there are just so many ways to have sex. Hi, I'm Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator, and on this episode of Sexy Sexual Health Education, we are going to be talking about what is sex. How much time we got? I'm actually going to try to make this as concise as possible, but it really is just the biggest topic. I think the only place to start would be with what we call the heteronorm. And that is a definition of sex that is a shared assumption or common belief about what sex is, and that is like penis and vagina, the assumption that everyone is heterosexual as like the default setting, and anything outside of that is not the norm, and that it takes place between a cisgendered man and a cisgendered woman, and there's also this like one-time event called our virginity in which we lose at the moment of the P in V penetrative sex. That assumption is then reinforced by our systems of information, more or less in like the entire Western concept of sex, whether that's Europe or in Western colonization of like everywhere. And the thing is, that definition of sex is a social construct. Like it literally is made up and then shared as if it's the truth. And the truth is, sex is kind of whatever you say it is. The only thing that makes a sexual expression not sex is if it is not consensual. What I offer here is that penetrative sex, however that takes place, is just one form of sex and sexual expression. We tend to hierarchize them into, there's that concept of like the bases or whatever. I don't know if people still use that. Like first base is, I don't know what that is, but there is a hierarchy with like penetrative sex at the top of that pyramid, which we'll talk about virginity in a sec. But with that, it kind of leaves out the fact that people with all different types of genitals have different types of sex with all different people with different types of genitals. Maybe they don't even use their genitals at all for any number of reasons. When we operate from a flattened structure of our conception of what sex is, not only is it more reflective of everybody's experiences, but we're better equipped to make informed decisions about how that affects us and affects the lives of our partners physically, emotionally, spiritually, etc. Let's play a game. Yes or no? Is kissing sex? Is dry humping sex? Is reading a partner a sexy story sex? Is a hand job sex? If something brings you sexual pleasure through some form of expression, whether that's emotionally or physically, that's a type of sex if you say so. For clarity and for comprehension, we can add adjectives on the top of that, like oral sex, penetrative sex, solo or partnered sex, cyber sex, text, sexting, like we can define the types of sex that we're talking about. And it's actually so important that we do, because in order to make an informed decision and to consent to certain types of experiences, the more specific we are, the more on the same page we can be whether that's verbally or through, body cues. All right, so virginity. Virginity as a social construct. What are the shared assumptions that we have as a culture about virginity? Often the shared assumptions are that it's penis and vagina. Sometimes in an effort for inclusivity, it might mean penis and anus. Either way, it's a penetrative moment. It is a single one-time act in which you either lose your virginity or you've taken someone's virginity. The role that you play within that tends to be quite gendered. And I mean, don't even get me started on the hymen. I don't know why I quoted hymen. Hymen is a real thing, but it's not something that like breaks because it got penetrated by a penis. There's all kinds of reasons that shit breaks or stretches, or I'll link a resource. As previously stated about heteronormativity, those assumptions about virginity then also assume heterosexuality, cisgenderism, sex binary in general, and that penetration equals sex. So who or what does that leave out? Anyone who isn't cisgendered or heterosexual, all the other ways that we sexually express that are totally valid and meaningful to us, people with penises that don't get erect, people who don't have the unassisted mobility to penetrate another person, and also it leaves out pleasure. I understand that the concept of virginity is very dear to some people, very authentic to some people, and I don't want to take that away, but I would at least like to challenge conceptions of virginity that at the very least cause harm and are defining of our worth as individuals moving through the world. I want to invite you to ask yourself the question, who does this construct serve, and does it serve you? Virginity is essentially the commodification of sex, which, as we know, disproportionately negatively affects people the further away their identities are from maleness, cisgenderedness, whiteness, able-bodied mindedness, but also just like everyone via toxic masculinity as well, which not in the least affects access to safety. And like, that all really sounds like it sucks. But Samantha Bitty, if everything is sex, then what about foreplay? I will offer you the definition of foreplay given to us by a world-renowned sex therapist, educator, woman, public speaker, Esther Perel, and she says that foreplay is all the stuff we do in between sexual activity. The ways that we romance each other, the ways that we create safety, negotiate boundaries, anticipate each other, the ways that we build excitement and enthusiasm to sexually express with each other. And where does it leave us when we throw away virginity or penetration as the top of the pyramid? And that leaves us in a world where when we think about sex, we have bodily autonomy, consent, pleasure, and mutual respect at its center. That's it for this episode of Sexy Sexual Health Education. Until next time, I hope you have sex as per your own definition of what that is. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I think I am. That's why they hired me to do this and not that. That's why they're not saying, I'm saying it. I hope you have sex.